What's going on, guys? It's Shameen. Hope y'all are doing well. Today, I want to talk about how you're going to take L's in life. Like, you will take fucking L's. And I think I'm going to just go through a bunch of the L's that I've experienced because I feel like people definitely don't talk about the L's they've taken, especially when it comes to when you're like on social media and you have like a bunch of followers or you have products and courses and stuff like that. People want to project a certain image. And it's just like the social media era, the clout era. It's like everybody puts up on social media. A lot of times you see they say like you see people's highlight reels, but you never see like the practices or the losses or all the other footage. It's just only the wins. So I'm gonna talk about some of the L's that I've taken in life and kind of some of the things that I had to deal with. And a lot of these L's were because of my own choices. Like, I acknowledge that, like, I'm a person where I preach not just self-accountability, but extreme self-accountability. Like, I'll blame stuff on myself, even if it was technically out of my power, like just for being in that situation, like that's still on me. So honestly, I guess just going back, going back to when I was right out of high school with the L's starting off. So number one, I barely graduated high school. And not because I was dumb or anything, just because I was a bad student. I was kind of a bad kid. I was a delinquent. Like my junior, senior years, especially, like I didn't care about anything. I certainly didn't care about school. So, I had ditched a bunch of classes. I had failed some classes. I ended up having to I almost had to like go to continuation school to like make up for my credits, but I ended up doing like this little program my last year to catch up on some of my credits, and then like I barely graduated high school. So that was somewhat of an L, though I did get my diploma. And then when I was going to community college, it took me a while when I first went to community college, I kind of realized, because at the time, my parents were in the middle of divorcing, and this was also right after the financial crisis, because this was like 2009. So it was right after like the economic crash. So my parents didn't really necessarily have the money to help me with my school and my classes. And even though it was community college, so it was actually pretty cheap. Like I remember my dad was like, oh yeah, like I can't, he gave me like some money for my classes. I'm like, this is only half the money. And he was like, that's what you got? I was like, great. So in my head, I'm like, damn. So even if I was a good student, which I wasn't, and I had, gotten into the college I wanted to, or gone to a university, it wouldn't have even been possible. Though I'm glad I went to community college first, because it definitely was a lot cheaper and better. But that was the point where I decided to join the military. So I was 19, enlisted in the National Guard. So here's where I took another big L, because I wanted to go active duty when I was 19, and they wouldn't let me because there was issues with my background check and my paperwork, because I had a juvenile record from when I was under 18. So that was a big L, because it caused a ton of issues with my enlistment and like my contracts and like clearances and paperwork and stuff like that. I had to go jump through extra hoops, because at the time there was like, there's certain rules when you're joining the military, and for the military, it's not like a regular job. Like this is like federal like security clearances and like federal background checks and stuff like that. Like a regular job, they can't really see your juvenile record, but like for this federal stuff and like these background checks, like that didn't matter. Like they was looking at everything you did. So that was a huge L. It was a big disappointment for me, because I wanted to go active duty at the time when I was 19. And I basically was not able to through the Army at that time. Maybe I could have done it through the Navy. Honestly, if, looking back, probably I could have figured out a way to go active duty, but because of the situation I was in, because honestly, when I enlisted, I was kind of like trying to enlist in a hurry. Like I was trying to get out of my parents' house. I was trying to just get to basic training and kind of move forward with life try to move things in the right direction, because I was definitely in a dark place at that time. So I was like, man, let me just, do what I can. So because of those issues with my record, they were like, oh, well, you can join through the National Guard, and then if you want to go active duty at a later time, maybe you can do that, or if you end up, getting activated or whatever. So I enlisted in the National Guard just because there was issues with joining active duty Army at the time. So I enlisted National Guard, and here I took my other big L as far as that goes, because I wanted to work in military intelligence, and my recruiter wouldn't put me down for certain jobs because he was saying I would fail the background check. So even though I scored really high on the ASVAB, like a 95 or whatever, so I qualified for any job in the military, but because of my past decisions I made when I was younger, it was still coming back to haunt me even years later. So I ended up taking a wheel vehicle mechanic MOS 91 Bravo when I enlisted, because it was going back and forth with my recruiter. I was trying to get certain jobs at MEPS, and then it was these issues. So I decided to just take what I could just get in there. And then I decided if I was gonna maybe, stay, that I would, switch over to something else. I was just gonna get my foot in the door and get going. So yeah, I took some big L's just based, just with my military career, based on the decisions I made in my past when I was 13, 16 years old, that still continue to follow me as an adult. I went to college for a while. I actually ended up dropping out before I got my bachelor's. So that was somewhat of an L, not really though, because I didn't really care about my degree at that point, because I was an accounting major, and then I decided I wanted to get into business development and sales in software. So when I was a senior, I got a job with a cybersecurity company doing business development, and so I dropped out and I never looked back. Don't regret that at all. So I'm not even sure if I would count that as an L. Though when I worked at this company for about a year, we had issues with the pay, and I ended up quitting on principle because it was some issues with our commission checks and payment, and I didn't necessarily like the way that the CEO was treating my time and treating some of my requests and concerns. So I quit off of principle, and I got a job at another software company in LA that was a fintech company. Doing the same thing, business development. And I worked there for 2 years, but maybe quitting that cybersecurity company was somewhat of an L, because, maybe I could have gotten a better position or gotten promoted later on. My colleague told me after I quit, they changed some of the policies and let people work from home and try to give people more benefits. So I guess my quitting, helped the people who stayed there, but it didn't necessarily help me. So when I joined that other fintech company, I was hoping to get promoted there and finally get an outside sales or account executive position, because I was doing inside business development. And I ended up getting laid off from that company. I started working there, October 2017, and I got laid off June of 2019. We had gotten acquired by an investment company. We ended up merging with one of our competitors. So a bunch of people ended up getting laid off, including myself. So I never got my promotion. So I was in kind of a weird position, because when I first got into business development at 25, I was hoping to become an account executive within a couple years, be on that track towards, 6 figures and kind of more independence as far as working from home and stuff, because this was before the Rona, so working from home wasn't necessarily as big back then. So that was one of my goals for freedom. So that was another L that I took. And also I took an L because right before I got laid off, I had actually started my e-commerce store, and I had invested thousands of dollars into my product and setting up my website and stuff like that, because I was funding it with money from my job. So I was like, okay, like I have my job, like I can build this business up. It might take a few months, year or two to build up, but I have this income to kind of build it up. And so right after I opened the business, I got laid off. So I had put all that capital in there, you know, into the actual product, to where I was like, damn, I'm not gonna get a return on this for a while. It's kind of put me in a weird position. So that was another big L I took. So all these decisions that I had made, and all these things that I was trying to do kind of it was just kind of bad timing. So like I said, this was about middle of 2019. So from middle of 2019 to the end of 2019, I was just kind of like freelancing and trying to figure things out. I had some success freelance writing, but it was definitely harder than I thought. Maybe not necessarily the writing part, but more like the business aspect, because you had to constantly find new content, find new clients, and, you know, maintain like the business side. So it wasn't just enough to get a client and write articles, but you had to constantly be getting new business. You know, some clients were harder to keep than others. So definitely wasn't easy. And then after that, I joined a small marketing agency. I transitioned to SEO because I was already doing freelance blogging, and I've been blogging for years. So I joined this small agency in LA, and that didn't quite work out. So that was another L, because I worked there for almost a year. So basically from 2020 till the beginning of 2020 till the end of 2020, I was working at that small agency. Didn't really get paid much, and put a lot of time and effort in kind of building up that agency, working on their site processes. It was kind of a thing to where kind of one thing led to another, and it ended up being a lot more work than I had originally expected when I signed on, as far as building up the agency itself. So that was an L, because I kind of wasted time in some way working there. Though it did open up the next opportunity I took at the agency I just left a couple weeks ago. That was a pretty decent gig. You know, the pay was good, even though I didn't necessarily agree with the way they ran the agency. But yeah, I worked there for about 6 months up until a couple weeks ago. So that's some of the L's that I've taken, because, you know, if some of these things had worked out well for me, I would probably not be in the position I am today, which, you know, depending on perspective, might be a good thing or a bad thing, you know, because like I said, I was kind of aiming towards that 6-figure account executive role with, you know, good base pay, good commission pay, working from home or working remote, kind of doing your thing, working in the software space. And now I kind of completely left the tech space, because, you know, I went from business development to doing SEO to now I'm transitioning to the insurance thing. But that just goes to show, like, things don't necessarily always go as planned. Like when I was 25 and I got that first job in software, I was like, okay, great. Like this year I'm gonna make 60K. The next year I'm gonna make 70K. Then the year after that, I'm gonna get promoted. I'm gonna make, you know, 6 figures. And like I thought, you know, I could just smoothly go from position to position, or kind of advance through the career ladder in a linear and smooth way, which some people are able to do that. But, you know, that's not necessarily reality for everybody. And I'm not even sure if that's necessarily the norm to move that smoothly through life. So now here I am kind of looking back, and it's like, yeah, I took a lot of L's, but I got a lot of wins too. Like I'm certainly not talking about my wins in this video. I do have some things that I'm proud of that I achieved, some accolades and some accomplishments that I have, but I have a certain level of ambition too, and I have a certain place where I'd like to be in life. So I'm probably like a little harsher on myself than most people. So, you know, I'm kind of looking back on the L's like, damn, I could have done this better, did that better, but it is what it is. You know, we can't necessarily focus on the past. And when I look back on the L's that I took, like, I don't necessarily regret my decisions. Like, like I said, I embrace extreme self accountability. So even like the things that didn't necessarily work out, like I still stand on those 10 toes down. Like, you know, I stand on my decisions, even if in retrospect they might not have been the best decision, or they might not have worked out most optimally in my favor. But I stand on all my decisions, and honestly, I can't necessarily complain about where I'm at now. Like, I feel like I'm in a pretty good position now, or at least I'm really about to be, and I'm still excited for the future. But I just wanted to make this video because people don't really talk about the L's that they took, talk about some of the struggles they had. Like over the last couple of years, I was struggling with money and stuff like that, with, you know, being laid off, doing the freelancing, working at, you know, that agency that didn't quite work out. I had written a couple ebooks after I had a successful ebook, right? I wrote this ebook on meditation at the end of 2018, and it was actually pretty successful. And I wrote a couple follow-up ebooks that didn't quite necessarily perform the same way, and I didn't really feel as confident in, you know, dealing with trying to, you know, make my freelance money or make my money off the side off my writing. Like I had articles, I had times where I was getting paid over $400 per article. I had independent journalism that was extremely successful, that went viral, that I was making like thousands of dollars on Medium. Like I had my wins, don't get me wrong, but I had quite a bit of disappointment as well to go along with some of those wins. But, you know, looking back and putting everything in perspective, I think everything that I've gone through has really only kind of built my character and built my experience as a man to give me that perspective on how things work, on how business is done, on how to be successful. Realistically, I feel like if you want to be successful, you have to be ready to take L's. Like, it's gonna happen, it's inevitable. You will take L's. Like, don't think that you're going to be successful and not take L's, because you're going to. It's just gonna be up to you how you respond and how you deal with them. Because for a while, like I was actually, you know, I had my streams of income all kind of doing well at certain points. Like my crypto was going, I had my 9-to-5 job going, I had my ebook selling. Like I was like, oh wow, I'm getting on my money routine a little bit. But you know, things can change. You know, you could lose a job, you could lose clients. You know, courses don't necessarily sustain you forever, and even like you can fall off a little bit. Like, you know, my confidence and stuff was affected as I was dealing with all these things and dealing with these things in life. And I've only talked about like my business sales. I had stuff that, you know, going on in real life and stuff like that. Like, you know, living in LA, I was living in different parts of the city at a certain point. Like I was dealing with like messed up roommates, messed up landlords between 2018 to basically maybe between 2017 to 2019, I lived in a couple places, and like all of them were bullshit pretty much. All of them were causing these issues. I mean, there's a lot of things in life that can go wrong. Like it's not necessarily just gonna be easy peasy, everything's gonna go smooth. You're gonna deal with things. So yeah, you're gonna take L's. Just accept that now. Like, you know, I had times where things were all going really good. I had times where things were going not so good. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna still achieve my goals, and I'm gonna still attain the level of success that I'm aiming to achieve, even if, you know, I had to, you know, climb a few mountains to get there. That's anybody who's become successful. So just kind of be prepared for that. You know, be ready to deal with that. Don't get discouraged. Just never give up. You know, like you only lose if you give up, really. So that's pretty much all I got. Comment, like, subscribe, you know, share some of your L's below in the comments, or, you know, let me know how you guys feel, and talk to you guys soon.